Inflation is skyrocketing. Deportations are at half the rate as former President Joe Biden's, and Maga is starting to have buyer's remorse. Tune in for this delicious 10 to 15 minutes of MAGA tears. Let me show you the first tweet. We have the MMA fighter, Sean Strickland, and he tweets, "Man, if Trump keeps up this bullshit, I'm about to start waving a Palestinian flag. American cities are shitholes, and you want to go spend billions on this dumpster fire? Did we make a mistake? This ain't America first." So here we have MAGA and the plot twist to end all plot twists that want to run around with Palestinian flags. I mean, talk about an epic backfire, Trump.
What's so interesting is this America First agenda. None of these people have paid attention, and they realize that it's always Trump first. They're at his flea markets, they're buying Trumpy trouts, they're losing money on Truth Social, they're doing all the things. And nobody realized he doesn't give a shit about America. He wants money. He wants to build hotels in Gaza. Jared Kushner said as much. So none of this is a surprise. I'm like, had you paid attention, you wouldn't be shocked by this. It just irritates me.
And then first, we've spoken in another episode about just the massive inhumanity about the way he speaks about that piece of land and how dear it is to a lot of people. But let's just imagine for a second that they do develop Gaza. Do you think we're going to be like, yeah, we're going on spring break to Gaza? That sounds like a great banger of an idea, that's going to be a safe, well-frequented place. I mean, all this is going to do is just foster more anti-Semitism and further divide a region that has been divided for decade after decade. But the MMA fighter, the tough guy MAGAs, they're not the only ones who are crying. Watch this clip from the MAGA farmers.
Folks who aren't feeling Trump's optimism right now are American farmers, and they are stuck in the middle of all of this.
Frank, who did you vote for president?
Mr. Trump.
Right?
Trump.
Mr. Trump.
If the election were today, Frank, would you vote for Donald Trump?
No way.
Couldn't happen. No.
You voted for President Trump. So now, in this moment, you say you're in a free fall. What is your message to him?
So I'm off the Trump train. Where I'm going for now is I got to protect my business.
A wheat farmer who says he's lost $400,000 since Trump took office.
I think there was a lot of people who voted for him that want to stay loyal to him, but it's going to get to the point where financially, if it's between supporting the president or losing your family farm.
You voted for the president?
Yes, I did.
And do you support these policies which might be hurting farmers like you?
Right now, we're the ones that are taking the hit.
I think he's sort of backstabbing the main people who got him into office in the Midwest, and he just left us down.
Okay, so when they cancel USAID, that bankrupts a lot of farms who grow the food that is shipped to the poorest children in the world. And so there's several facets to this that I want to talk about. Number one, why is it that the average white dude sees Donald Trump as what it's like to be a man? This is a man who's never really had to work per se. He inherited $500 million, squandered a lot of it, and then has kind of paperclip and stapled his way through The Apprentice. And he's good at branding. I'll give him that and that alone. And then you have the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, taking away food and life-saving medications from the poorest children in the world. And a lot of these people, these Midwesterners, a lot of these farmers are big churchgoers. So explain to me, like I'm five, how you reconcile that with your faith. I am not a religious person, but I would not want babies that are counting on food and really marginalized, poor people to have their food taken away from them so that the richest man in the world can stop an investigation. I wouldn't want that. So explain to me, like I'm five, how Christians are all for this. And then lastly, to get off the serious part of it, it's hard for me to have empathy for these people. You're business people. Just because you're in the Midwest doesn't mean you have to be a dipshit and vote for a dipshit. Smarten up. They've been alive long enough to know that the economy does so much better under Democratic presidents, and that it always recedes or recesses under Republican leadership. It always has my entire life.
Well, I think it goes back to critical thinking. People were thinking with, I want to own the libs. I want to be able to make hateful, mean, terrible, cruel remarks about marginalized people. I don't want trans athletes in sports, not realizing there are less than 1% of the population, even less than that in sports. They went with these social issues thinking, oh, Donald Trump's going to save us because he's this great businessman. They didn't look at the facts. And the facts are Donald Trump, as you said, inherited $500 million. He took that money and he lost it hand over fist, bankrupting himself 6 times, committing fraud on Trump Vodka, Trump Steaks, Trump University, bankrupts casinos. And the only reason he's even viable is because of The Apprentice. And the producers of The Apprentice have come out and said, that was all bluff. I mean, we made him what he seemed on that TV, but they've had more than enough evidence. So I'm like you. I feel badly that they are in a financial position that is so precarious. I hate what Elon Musk and Trump are doing to U.S. aid. I hate it. But the reality is these people, unless it hurts them in the pocketbook, they don't care about anybody but themselves. And now they're realizing Trump never cared about them at all. So hopefully this moment of clarity will not be lost and it will lead to more critical thinking on their part.
We're missing a huge component of this in what I said and what you said.
Okay.
And they're not just thinking of themselves. There is a component of this that we all have to start talking about, because a huge part of Trump's political brand is tribalism and racism, and either overt or covert. And a lot of people that live in rural America in a very homogenous society, hell, we live in Oklahoma City. When I'm in white circles, the racism is there. It is absolutely there. And so there is a cruelty to Trump that these people like. And now that the cruelty where they're taking away food from the poorest babies of the world is affecting them personally, then they don't like the cruelty. But there is a acquiescence or an appeasement to racist ideas and to upholding the structures of white supremacy in their vote. I will never be convinced, ever, since Trump has been in the public political world for 10 years, that people could be 100% anti-racist and a Trump voter. It's just not possible. You haven't, even if you've only watched Fox News, they play a lot of the stuff that he says, and they play his greatest hits when he is throwing red meat about being cruel to immigrants or being homophobic. And these people like it. They like the cruelty. And there's a component to that that I think we have to keep talking about, because there's a huge portion of the American public that needs to reconcile what is so broken in them that they like a leader that is cruel. But here we have the Maga Venezuelans, and they were, organized in Florida and told, we're going to vote for Trump, and listen to what they found out.
And around Monday, Venezuelan Americans denounced the Trump administration and South Florida Republicans.
More than betrayed, beyond betrayed. They used us. They actually, during the campaign, and I don't want to make this political, but during the campaign, the elected officials from the Republican Party, they actually told us that it was not going to touch the documented people.
This is something that I think is really interesting. And I don't have the history of education to answer to this, but somebody who is brown skin, who hears the way he speaks about people of color specifically, and there are, a solid decade of him saying very disparaging things about working class immigrants. Really, really cruel stuff. And how they get convinced to vote for him. And I don't know if it is that in Latin cultures, there seems to be like a machismo, sexist kind of overtone that they're still, as a culture, trying to reconcile, just as we're trying to reconcile our patriarchal issues as well. I don't know what that is about, but to me, when I know that I'm probably especially now my husband, a white man, is going to be okay in Trump's America.
Right.
But I don't know how you hear what he says about immigrants, and you are an immigrant or from an immigrant family, specifically a Latin country, that you can go through this and think that these people aren't going to betray you. To me, that's like, all you have to do is watch the footage of him coming down that escalator in 2016 in Trump Tower, and what he says, that immigrants are rapists, criminals. And then it got even worse. The rhetoric was far worse this most recent campaign than it was in the previous two, in my opinion.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, now instead of just being blatant about, saying Black and brown people, everything's DEI, they're taking women's accomplishment in the military away. I mean, it is going straight patriarchy, misogyny, homophobia, racism. It's all there.
All right, guys, stick with us for more uplifting news.